Hello, everyone. I'm Kato. I've been back to the manufacturing industry, so I don't know if I'm qualified to moderate this panel, but let me try as usual. We have 2 back-to-back sessions this year. We had 3 last year, by the way, and we have certain lessons learned so that we need to reduce the number of sub-panels. And we invite 4 speakers now, and 30, 40 minutes later, we have 3 people to coming in. Actually, after lunch, I took a nap at my room, and when I woke up, it was 2 o'clock, 10 minutes, and I completely messed up my scheduler, which said my panel would start at 2:10. So I ran from the 28th floor to here, and I realized that it was my mistake. Panel won't start until 2:40. That's good news. But anyway, I'm still having up my breathing, so just allow me. Okay, so I will start with the short information for you to be shared from the speakers. I would like everyone here to talk about yourself briefly and talk about your company briefly and some accomplishment in the past 1 year since the last year of this panel. So let's start this way, Tina.
Good afternoon. Hello, everybody. My name is Tina Ghataore. I am the Group Chief Strategy and Revenue Officer at Aerospacelab, and I also head up our US operations. We are a European headquartered company out of Belgium. We're a satellite manufacturer, highly vertically integrated. And what I mean by that is we build from subsystems to platforms to payloads and help operate satellites for our customers as well. Next week will mark the launch of our 10th satellite. So far, we've launched most of those into LEO with a very diverse set of payloads across Earth observation remote sensing payloads, radio frequency sensing satellites, and are moving very rapidly into the commercial telecom constellation space. At the company, I'm responsible for customer-facing functions, owning a number. So it's exciting to be back here in Asia and would love to speak to many of you regarding your mission objectives and your business needs.
Thanks, Eddie. Richard French, lead business development and strategy for Rocket Lab Space Systems. Folks probably know Rocket Lab is the global leader in dedicated small launch with Electron, as well as our Neutron launch vehicle, which we're looking to bring to the market now. But the Space Systems division at Rocket Lab actually accounts for over 70% of our top line. And so in Space Systems, we manufacture satellites. We are vertically integrated as our strategy across all of our elements. But we're also a very important provider of components. So we are a merchant component supplier of a broad range of capabilities and really take a lot of pride in filling key holes in the supply chain. So we have over 40 satellites in our production backlog right now, and it's lately I've been saying it feels like we're always just getting started, but we're actually finishing quite a lot right now. So we're delivering a number of satellites. We're well into our production run for the Globalstar constellation with our partners at MDA as an example. We've had a number of successful missions with Varda doing very challenging things like targeting Earth entry. Big development from last year is we did close the acquisition of Geost, which is an optical systems company in Tucson. So vertically integrating infrared, electro-optical, and space protection sensors into our tech stack. So that was a really exciting development. And then I'll be headed to the Cape soon as we have a few satellites being bolted to a New Glenn as we speak, taking their next step towards Mars, which is our first science mission for NASA. So pretty exciting that, again, we're actually finishing and delivering quite a lot right now. Thanks.
It will work. Okay. Hello, everyone. I'm Ronald Massard, working with Thales Alenia Space. Quite a familiar name, I guess. We are manufacturing satellites and space objects for quite a long time for telecom, for Earth observation, navigation, and exploration in all orbits and for the outer space.
And good afternoon, I'm Michael Kaliski. I'm the CTO at Swiss-12. Swiss-12 is a Swiss company based in Lausanne on the French-speaking side of Switzerland. I'm personally based in the San Francisco Bay Area, where we have an engineering and program management office with a lot of team members who worked at a big aerospace prime working on big geos, including for some of the operators in this room over the years. Swiss-12 is known for its prowess in additive manufacturing for RF products, but we made a big pivot a few years ago to go into a small geo market, recognizing that there was a lot of interest from operators there. Supported by the European Space Agency, we were able to sell our first satellite to Intelsat, now SES, so the Intelsat 45 spacecraft, followed by 3 for Inmarsat, now Viasat, Inmarsat 8 series, and more recently one for Astromobile, which is a great example of an operator where HummingSat, a small geo, allows them to start their business and grow their business. And really it's an example where a customer may not be able to start service with a traditional large geo, but with having an incremental small geo or multiple small geos, they may be able to start the business. And so we see a lot of interest in that, and it's a time when there are less geo orders than there used to be. We have 5 in our backlog and a lot of interest going forward. So be happy to meet with people here when we have the different breaks. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. I will start with some questions so that you can raise hand if you think you apply to the question. Who does geo satellites? Okay, who does LEO satellites? Who does MEO satellites? Who does communication satellites? Who does remote sensing satellites? Who does deep space and moon type missions? Okay. Finally, who does defense job? Okay, thank you. It's so quick, so I don't know how you figured out, but now you can understand the landscape of who does what, basically. Now, with that, Ronald, my first question, it's a hot topic. There's a merger announced among Thales Alenia Space, Airbus, and Ronald. What do you think brought the decision? Is that a market change or any demand change? Would you be able to figure out what you think?
Eddie, you know that I will have a very short answer to that. The process is going on for this merger. There was a fantastic press release that was issued by the 3 companies.
Fantastic.
So, well, we must all refer to this press release and, well, let the process go on.
So, so you think it's a good move?
Nice try.
All right, so I suppose, based upon what I have been reading in the articles and lot of things, naturally, at least partly, the market situation affects, right? And I think everyone said you guys are in a geo business. No, you are not, right?
Getting there.
Yes, you are? Okay. Anyway, majority of the people are in a geo business. First of all, number of satellites you have been seeing in the market, let's say commercial first, have been declining, right? But probably increasing in the defense side. Would you be able to tell your views about the current geo market status and where it goes in the next, say, 5 years? Anyone?
I could take the first shot. So I'm not sure I'm seeing any declining demand from a macro perspective. It feels like whether you're talking civil space, national security, or commercial, demand signal is strong. It's probably a little more complex than that if you want to separate orbits. And I think a lot of either companies or countries, agencies are trying to figure out what the right balance is between orbits. Of course, in the US, we have agencies that are well funded, and so the answer is everything. So if you look at national security, we're seeing growing demand in GEO. I think with the realization that we can actually bring GEO capability to bear, which is affordable and really has bent the cost curve of traditional GEO spacecraft. And I think that's true also in commercial, but maybe the other folks here can comment more on the trends in commercial. But we really see strong demand across all domains.
Yeah, go ahead.
Perhaps I can clarify we're getting into the GEO business. So I believe there's a real market there for select innovative companies that can do GEO in a different way. So GEOs don't have to be $100 million plus US dollar propositions anymore. You could launch a nice sized GEO that delivers on your mission, whether it's fixed satellite services or something else, for probably half that amount. And so what we've been doing is capitalizing on our LEO heritage, and you're probably wondering, how does LEO translate to GEO? Fundamentally, what we've done at our company is take it down to our EEE components that make up our subsystems that then fly into space. So what we've done there is we've actually up-qualified and done radiation testing on many of our components that allow us to go to GEO. So when we're looking at responding to some very select customers that are familiar with our heritage and our experience, they come to us not for a standard GEO bus, but come to us for a solution that can help take their mission into space, trusting that our core subsystems that I mentioned that we're very vertically integrated on, avionics, power, propulsion, etc., and we take those to GEO.
Okay, so you mean that market is not blamed, but how to do the business in the market may have different ways to give a good press to the market.
Yes, I'm very excited about being on stage here with Swiss to 12 and Richard and team, and there are others who are doing some creative solutions around delivering to GEO, and I think we are going to challenge the incumbent large primes that I think somebody earlier on says, you'll order a $250, $300 million satellite and get it 3 years late. That's not what the new players are doing. Our promise is 2 years in orbit or less.
Got it. Mike?
We just say that the market has evolved. I mean, there used to be 20 to 25 large GEOs per year, commercial, right? This year there have been 5 commercial GEO orders. We have one of the 5. It's hard to see that going back to the 20 to 25, but it has evolved, right? So, a lot of defense satellites. We see programs like PTSG that before that didn't exist. They had other larger versions, but we're trying to evolve with that. I would say though that GEO is not dead, and in fact, with the number of satellites that are up there, they have to be replaced or the slots abandoned, and so maybe we'll see some of each. But in some cases, it makes sense to use a small GEO. If that's just because of the business demand, makes sense. It's an alternative that didn't exist before, but in other cases, the big GEO is the way to go. But GEO's not dead, and there should be more orders. I mean, 5 a year it's not enough. Having said it, one of the large operators on stage earlier today, right, they have, I think, 110 satellites now. So that seems like a lot for a while.
So Mike, what's preventing your customers ordering more satellites? Is that price, or is that performance, or is that Is that this full digital satellite saga, whatever?
I mean, obviously price and schedule are important factors. Performance, I can tell you that the kind of requirements that we work to are the same as the big geo. It's just scaled down a number of transponders or throughput. So, and that's part of the challenge. It's, you know, this thing has to last with the reliability of the traditional big geos to make the value work, because it's hard to launch. That's it.
As far as you have a 15 years life or more as a requirement, is it not the case that the supply chain would be basically same between big satellites and small? So you don't earn a price savings so much.
This is the challenge, and having lower volumes are a challenge, but we have to be creative. You know, but so far it's we see success in 5 satellites.
Okay. Richard, what's your case? I think you are also doing geo satellites with the kind of new space approach a little bit. Is that making difference a little bit about your pricing?
Yeah, I mean, I think 15 years is very hard to do with commercial electronics. I mean, it is interesting to see some of the new FinFET technology actually is much more radiation tolerant than you know, other silicon parts, and so we are seeing trends in silicon that actually are supportive of higher performance and longer life, but hitting a traditional 15-year requirement, I think operators and customers really need to understand their value proposition and kind of how the unit economics work so that we can get a good crossover between an ROI and the price of the system. I think a 10-year requirement is probably a better, a stable point. But yeah, you know, we started in LEO, although we'd always had ambitions to go further, as evidenced by our going to the moon for NASA many years ago, and are delivering spacecraft that are deep space capable and ready to fly to Mars today. And so we always had that. I think radiation tolerance is just one important tool, though, the propulsion to be able to do orbit raising, to be able to do complex momentum management at GEO, you know, to close the comms loop. I mean, there's a lot of challenges that have to be met. And so we started with a thesis of solving hard problems, and so we just viewed GEO as another one of those.
So for GEO, I think we discussed a little bit, but I don't have much time, so let's proceed to other things like LEO and MEO. Is a market really growing now? I think I see every country, basically every region, has some kind of a constellation program, either commercial or government. Is that something you see about a growth engine in the satellite manufacturing business today?
I can start maybe.
Yeah, go ahead.
So we certainly believe so. We're a 7-year-old company out of, you know, a little country called Belgium, and are putting up a 200,000 square foot facility coming online second quarter next year. So we took a bet that there is a market for large volume satellite manufacturing in the LEO space, and our bet's paying off. We are actively involved in a number of sales campaigns, commercial and other, around LEO constellation in the hundreds of satellites. We're fortunate to be on the same slide that indicates we are shortlisted for the European sovereign constellation, IRIS². We are part of the LEO High program, shortlisted against a big behemoth, Airbus, so we're excited as a small company, 7 years old. We've been vertically integrating, as I said, not just at the satellite bus and platform level, but we've been investing in our own telecom payload capabilities as well. So that's pretty exciting for us. We believe there will be a market for several of these constellations, even though the looming Starlink debate is always there in terms of market.
I think your question was about demand in LEO and MEO, and I mean MEO is an interesting domain. I have a a personal preference, I think, for it. I think it's a really nice a domain to be able to balance CapEx for global coverage and reduce latency. And you know, you see a few programs like Epic 2 and the missile tracking layer, which SSC plans for medium Earth orbit. But yeah, LEO is really where it's at. That's where most of the demand is. And as more folks recognize Rocket Lab as a leading satellite manufacturer, we're really seeing more demand than we can service. And we have to service. We have to be selective with who we work with. The big contracts, the large, really high volume contracts, you know, there's only so many companies that are really credible that can produce the components in the volumes that are needed. So you can't feed a large AIT facility unless you can manufacture the components, and so that's really where we focused on.
You know, Starlink has a lot of satellites. Amazon also. I'll come back to you, okay? And but they are having a in-house manufacturing capability by themselves. So excluding those two large systems from the market demand size, of course there are some government businesses and kind of things, but would you still think that this is a good growing market? That's my next question. But before that, if you have any comment, Ronald, please go ahead.
Hello? Yeah, okay, it works. Yeah, there's obviously a strong drive for multi-orbit concepts with many operators, with increasingly more countries nowadays. Now, well, of course, I joined Richard on the preference for MEO. It makes sense, obviously. We see also a number of countries which are turning to sovereign LEO constellations. There's a project here in Taiwan, for instance. So that will create volumes, smaller, of course, than the likes of Starlink and Kuiper, but definitely there will be a strong drive for that.
Okay. Anyone to talk about my question then?
So just so everyone knows, I mean, the LEO constellations that are being planned out there is based on market demand, right? So it's not just about broadband backhaul anymore. It's about direct to device, you know, what's being enabled because you and I have cell phones that are capable of receiving communication directly, and I don't have to buy a very specific phone tailored, you know, a satellite phone anymore. So that's driving the demand for, you know, telecom operators converging with traditional satellite operators, right? They're coming together, they're coming up with solutions that are driving demand on the LEO telecom side. But we're as a company, we're finding a lot of sovereign needs around the Earth observation market, whether it's very high resolution satellites, radio frequencies satellites. So there's a significant demand on the LEO side, but we're equally seeing programs that haven't been funded yet. So as Richard mentioned, we have to be very selective on how we approach you know, players that have been in the market talking about LEO constellations for the last 5 years and nothing's materialized, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think I might have said this on the panel last year. If your answer to the question is a mega constellation, then you're asking the wrong question. You've got to have a constellation size which is manageable capex, and that's still hundreds of satellites typically for like a 5G NTN application, and so yeah, the real challenge is if you've got a partner that can manage the volume and actually execute with a reasonable reliability, yeah, the customer needs to commit. And I think this is one of the challenges that we're seeing. We see a lot of companies in what appears to be an existential crisis. They need to invest. They need to plan their next phase of deployment and services, and that's a hard decision to make. You know, what should you do it in partnership? You know, what kind of a service is it? Are you going to compete with one of these mega constellations, or are you going to find a niche? And so I feel for them, but yeah, I think some real leadership and you know, hitting that go button. You know, we need somebody to reach for the green button and hit go, and so we get to work on bringing more capability to the market.
So defense, national security missions. Without that demand, do you think a market stands?
No.
Anyone else?
I mentioned we're part of pursuing the European version of our sovereign constellation, right? European Commission. So that's going to help fuel industry. And without that, I don't think too many commercial constellations can sustain the manufacturing industry.
Everyone agrees? I was kind of expecting that someone will take exception, but well, yeah, I think I have to agree to that as well from my standpoint, by the way, because Astroscale Japan is, in a sense, manufacturer of satellite as well, although we provide services. And without defense demand, I don't know how we can survive. So with that, my next question is that, how would you, this is not a really demand question, but I think I would before we close, I think I would like to have some more, strategic type things. So how you would run your business in today's demand, looking at the 5 years later, so more demand come from a government side. Looks like that's what people think. Now, so your manufacturing business strategy, manufacturing method, quality control, new development technologies, those kind of things are shifting toward responding to the government demand right now and treating a commercial demand kind of as a attached market to that. Is that something what you guys are doing? You know what I mean?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, we're going to be bringing online one of the largest factories in Europe for satellite manufacturing. So you can imagine we've had to be smart about how we implement the actual factory itself. But we're not that old as a company. We're a young company. We're 7 years old. So we don't have to deal with too many old legacy systems. We can adopt some new age ERP, MRP type systems that essentially feed right the way from when we start our design for scalability on our satellites all the way through manufacturing. So we're designing smart, we're designing for scale. Yes, we're looking at AI where it's necessary, but I'll come back to the DNA of our company, which is highly vertically integrated and, building blocks. What we're doing right now, I would say, is creating those core fundamental building blocks that will enable smart manufacturing of our satellite payloads, our satellite platforms. But we're also selling subsystems. We're excited to be part of a constellation, the Telesat Lightspeed constellation, where we're delivering power to MDA on that. And that's trained our teams at the engineering side, at the manufacturing side, to produce hundreds and hundreds of units for that particular constellation. So smart manufacturing is in our DNA.
Miss, actually, next panel, we have only 3 speakers, so we'll go 5 more minutes with this one, and then shorten a little bit about next one. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I think in short, it's really nice to have a commercial and government demand and a mix between defense and civil space. So it's kind of tough medicine for the engineering team, but on our Escapade mission, for example, we had a standing review board of a very large number of NASA experts, providing helpful suggestions on how to do better. And so if you think about every program as an opportunity to learn, to invest in your products and process, and you accept the challenge of meeting really, really tough requirements, then you can use that in your commercial business to convince a customer, like Globalstar, to trust you for the first time before you've built any high reliability satellite. And so we're finding those types of approaches can be successful.
Okay, let's quickly before we close, let's go to 2 questions from the audience. The first one you see there: can satellite manufacturing with all these competitions be profitable without a service business? Are you guys all planning to do some types of services businesses in the future? That's a question. Let's go quickly from Tina to Mike.
Maybe Mike should go first. Go.
You can start with Mike too.
I would just say that the customers that we're working with right now are providers, operators. So it's not in our interest to become their competitor. So we're happy to provide the satellite itself to them.
How about providing a satellite capacity as a service to the operator? Is that in the option or it's outside of the option?
I mean, everything's possible, but today the focus is on the satellite itself and supporting operators in their market.
Okay, next.
Several solutions can be envisaged for commercial operators, obviously, but for government operators, it's a little bit more difficult because they will focus on sovereignty primarily.
Richard?
Yeah, I think you can be profitable as a manufacturer. You've got to be high performance and have a good strategy like vertical integration, and it's also helpful if you don't have failures, right? You've got to actually execute reliably and build your reputation. But Rocket Lab at the same time is vertically integrating an end-to-end space capability to have lowest total cost of ownership should we decide to go and pursue an application. And so that's a complicated, very challenging step to make, though. I think it was the ABS CEO that had some strong words, indicting words about the performance of the space industry, and I think he was referring to the number of poorly performing services that we've seen in our history. And so we're going to be really diligent and careful about how we pursue that and who we pursue it with.
Thank you.
Entering the service business isn't something that we're planning on doing on the telecom space. We've experienced doing this on the Earth observation remote sensing side of the business, but even that, it takes a real go-to-market strategy to achieve that. What we are looking to do is very much disrupt the full value chain to enable the satellite operators to cost-effectively deliver services to consumers, enterprises, etc. So where we can disrupt at the infrastructure level, whether it's space or ground, that's exactly what we plan to do.
Thank you. I think time is up, so I'll just unfortunately cut off the second question. Let's close the panel then.
Thank you, Kato-san, and thank you all the panelists. May we give another round of applause for the panel?